Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans travel to Detroit to take on the Lions on Sunday. Brian Callahan, meeting with the media today, ruled out offensive lineman Jalen Duncan and cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. Callahan confirmed Leroy Watson will start at right tackle for the Titans on Sunday. Also, wide receiver Calvin Ridley, a full participant in practice today. Brian Callahan said he feels good about Ridley being able to go on Sunday. Will Levis likely will be active on Sunday, but the Titans seemingly still leaning towards Mason Rudolph to get the start. The Lee Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 9 a.m. Titans countdown starts at 11, and kickoff is at noon with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew. Big college football weekend in store, though the Vols are off on their second bye week. Alabama playing host to Missouri. You can hear that game at 2:30 kickoff right here on The Zone, courtesy of Westwood One. But on West End, number 25 Vanderbilt hosting number 5 Texas. That is a 3:15 kickoff that you can watch on SEC Network. World Series gets underway tonight. The Dodgers hosting the Yankees for Game 1 at 7:08 is the first pitch. And the Nashville Predators are on the road at the Blackhawks, a 7:30 puck drop. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. You want to talk Tennessee Titans and Vanderbilt versus Texas. We're going to hit all of that today, talk about the latest news with the Tennessee Titans and ahead of their game against the Detroit Lions. And then, of course, we're going to have Mike Herndon join us today of PK.com and Football and Other F Words. And then also Kyle Turley. That name may sound familiar to you if you're a longtime NFL fan, former Saints and Rams offensive lineman. He'll be joining us to talk about some of the Tennessee Titans offensive line, just offensive line play in general. But Blaine, right off the top of the show, since we're talking about the offensive line, this whole right tackle situation, it's obviously been very frustrating for us and frustrating for fans and likely frustrating for the coaches and all that kind of stuff. But I just kind of feel like we're just being gaslit about some of these things. Like I finally understand gaslighting. I'm now a victim of it because they're starting Leroy Watson today, right? Which is probably the right move. We'll see how it works. Not dressing. Yeah, after not dressing. And then they talk about like, well, Jalen Duncan this, Jalen Duncan that, and they're talking about, NPF and what he needs to improve. And I'm just like, all this stuff that's coming out of their mouth, a lot of it feels like word salad, but some of it feels like I'm taking crazy pills and I don't understand what they're doing. So we're going to play these. I'm with you. We're going to play these clips, and I believe I have it. Duncan, NPF, and Leroy Watson, if I'm not mistaken, in that order. And this is Bill Callahan talking about all three. There'll be a little transition noise in between them, but we're going to just hear him talk about all three players at the right tackle position.
Well, what's interesting? Jalen Duncan went through training camp and had kind of a banged up hand, so he was never really able to function at full capacity. And so we spent some time and some downtime to get that hand right. And it was perfect. It was perfect timing. And unfortunately, he gets hurt, on the fourth, fifth play of the game. And I really feel bad for him because he was really coming along well. And, we had really thought about his progress during the OTAs and going into training camp. And we really thought he was making strides, but he just couldn't use, his right hand enough. He didn't have functionality in it, for pass pro. So we backed off, let him rest, but he kept up with everything. And like I said, it was his time to play, and unfortunately, we couldn't sustain after that fourth or fifth play. I just thought, as a group, that the consistency in the production could be better. And I love Leroy. I think he gives a tremendous effort. He works hard. He practices hard. He's smart. He's intelligent. He just needs more experience. And we know that, going out for the first time, you're going to have your highs and lows. We're just trying to get that position to be more consistent. And I think he realizes that too. So we're at the spot where we've got a lot of candidates competing for that spot. And we're just trying to shore up the right tackle spot, to get more production.
Where does that leave you now, you think?
Well, we haven't made a determination, because, JD went on, he's hurt. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but he's, still with us. And of course, we're going to continue to work the, 3-4 other tackles as well. We've really tried hard extensively to work all the anchor drills, try to put him in every anchor position we can. The odd angles, that he's on the edge, or maybe deep in the set. So we've worked every aspect of the anchor ability. And he's just got to get more consistent with it. It's working your feet, splaying your feet, sticking your stakes in the ground, to hold your ground. And, that's something that we're, consistently working. So, unfortunately, a couple of those haven't worked out like anybody in our league, but, we just want it to be more consistent.
Do you think he's a big fella? Is it a strength issue? Is it a mentality, technique? What's the fundamental issue with him?
I think he really practices hard. He does well. When we drill, it looks good. When we're in the one-on-ones, he shows anchor ability. And then, we get out, a couple times you're facing different types of rushers, different powers, and to make that adjustment versus power in the middle of the game, that's the challenge. And that's what we're looking for. Guys that can make that adjustment, that can anchor down the edge, can be strong on top of the set. It's really what we're really aiming for to improve.
It's a lot of that is just a bunch of word salad on Leroy Watson. And the stuff with NPF is the same stuff that we have talked about NPF since he's been drafted. And the stuff about Jalen Duncan is even more confusing, because if he's had hand issues, why is he even being attempted to be thrown in some of these games that he was thrown into in the regular season and the offseason? Why is he not getting rest for this supposed damaged hand that doesn't allow him to play? And then this constant rotation, I think Stephen Parker put it best. I wish we would just pick one and stay with them. Constantly rotating them does more harm than good in the long run. Mm-hmm. And we all said that, oh man, Leroy Watson, he was bad, but he wasn't as bad as what we have seen from Jalen Duncan, as bad as what we've seen from NPF, and then he's inactive. And then Jalen Duncan, he kind of almost said that Jalen Duncan was going on IR, but then he stopped himself. So we'll see how that plays out. And then now they try to start Jalen Duncan, and then his hamstring gets hurt. Then they put in NPF because Leroy Watson's inactive now. It may be Leroy Watson, John Ojukwu, and maybe NPF is inactive. Like, this is a mess, and it's frustrating. And I feel like they should have just stuck with Leroy Watson last week. Let him get if reps are the issue, right? It's just, like, that's what he said about Leroy Watson, Blaine. Experience is the issue. Then why are you taking away the experience from him by making him inactive last week?
That means you didn't like him. And so the same thing is with Duncan as well. No experience, but you gave an opportunity. He spoke so highly of Duncan. I was just amazed. And then he says his hand, okay, well, his hand, it must be healed. You put him out there, and he looked worse than anybody. The best of the bad is Leroy Watson. I'm sorry. He is. At least what we saw in the game, and then you made him inactive. So how much are you supporting the guy? And I know he had 2 or 3 penalties in that game, but I felt I saw fight. Now, was he technically sound and all those things for his first start? I thought, okay, this is something maybe we can get by this season with help and assistance along the way and strong support. So to me, that was a bad move on my part. And then he doesn't even dress. Like, he wasn't bad like that. Like, come on now. And you going to put somebody else out there that was better than him that's on the roster? That is, man, I was stunned that he did not even dress. So then it takes me to, can they really evaluate talent? And reason why I take it there is not only on the Watson deal, at worst case scenario, he was going to be the backup in a game. There's no way he played bad enough based off what the other players have done not to dress. Number 2, what they did with NPF when he came off of being injured. They threw him out there. Did they watch film? Did they watch
That's
film
the
of
question,
last
right?
season?
But and then we're sitting here, we're talking
There
about
was
one
no
of the
and I
best
said it
offensive
at the
line
time.
coaches, and it's driving me nuts. It's
no,
the one that, yeah.
he's the best line coach of the first, second rounders. These guys aren't first, second rounders.
Well, there you go.
See, now we get
Yeah.
to see if he really can teach. See, and break it all down. So I thought, man, are you watching what they're doing? So now you put MPF in a position where you threw him out in the fire, who he didn't practice all off season. He had 2 injuries, knee and shoulder. And so now he couldn't have done anything. He could listen, but he couldn't have done them physically. So I thought that was bad there because he played horrendous last year. He got suspended for 6 games. He came back. He played so poor. I was like, man, this is worse than his rookie year. I said, so I don't know. I think they made an assumption that he was going to be back to a level that they could work with and get by. Well, you need the eye in the sky never lies. And that's the film. And all you had to do was watch it instead of having your own preconceived notions of what or who you wanted to put out there.
Right.
And that there is coaching 101. And I was really surprised. I sat here on the pregame show when they said Leroy Watson wasn't dressed, and I saw it first, and I announced it there with Kayla and B-Hop. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned.
It's like they're watching, okay, NPF doesn't have the anchor, so let's try Jalen Duncan, who may have the anchor. Well, Jalen Duncan, he's a little injured or banged up. We need to put someone else in. Well, Leroy Watson got put in. He has fight. He has the anchor, but he got the penalty. So let's go back to NPF because maybe he can get the anchor down this week.
No.
That's what it feels like we're doing at that right
for
tackle.
instant consistency,
Yeah.
and you're not going to get that with someone who has no experience and is not ready to be out there. They need support. You got to know going into the game, there's going to be mistakes. But one thing you can say about Leroy Watson, I don't care, he probably not even a starter in this league. I'd be dang, I'm going down with the dude that's going to go fight. And he fought. And so guess what? I'm putting that dude out there before anybody else just because of that. He has dog, and that matters.
That's right. Hey, listen, you know what else matters? The 104.5 The Zone High School Football Game of the Week matters, and it's featured one of the best Middle Tennessee matchups each Friday with Will Bowling and Brad Hopkins. Tune in this Friday as they call Ravenwood at Oakland starting at 6:45 p.m. Central Standard Time on 104.5 The Zone. Special thanks to Whataburger and Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance for bringing that to you. When we come back, we'll be joined by Mike Herndon, and we'll talk all about this offensive line issues. We'll talk about Mason Rudolph, Will Levis, everything Tennessee Titans with Mike Herndon at Mike Herndon NFL. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach here on 104.5 The Zone.
Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you it'll be ready at 4 p.m. and it's not. People are really tired of that stuff. So if you had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come on over to Eurofix. And Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable. And Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really ready so you don't have to stand around and wait all freaking day. And Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer and without the dealer pricing. And that's because the dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of the dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. So why would you want to pay for that? Well, at Eurofix Reliable also means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So make sure you call ahead as loaner cars are very, very popular. So if you're tired of the unreliable repair shops, come on over to Reliable, and that'll be Eurofix. Family owned for 24 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always don't blame you.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. And we're heading straight to the phone lines to go talk to Mike Herndon at Mike Herndon NFL, frequent guest of Football and Other F Words right here on 104.5 The Zone that you can hear every Wednesday wherever you get your 104.5 The Zone podcasts. And, of course, PK.com is where he writes as well. And, Mike, let's start off with the trades first, because there's a lot to get to about this game and about the roster moves and everything, but I think it all starts with the trades. What is the signal that those trades sent you about the Tennessee Titans season and about the Tennessee Titans quarterback?
Yeah, well, I think the signal for the season is that it's over, right? Like they've given up the ghost, they've waved the white flag. They know they're not going anywhere, which, fans don't want to hear that, obviously. I mean, that's upsetting to people who paid money to come see the rest of these games, right? And, you're not going to be able to see DeAndre Hopkins. You're not going to be able to see Ernest Jones. Who knows if they're done? I don't know. But at the same time, I do think it's important for them to admit that what reality is and accumulate as many assets as possible, because I know, look, a 5th-round pick and a 4th-round pick isn't going to change your entire franchise necessarily. But the good teams historically have built through the draft, and having more picks gives you more swings at landing a guy like a Jarvis Brownlee Jr., who could be a big contributor for them moving forward. I think it's important reality check for the franchise. It shows they know where they are, and they don't have it this year. As for the quarterback, I think it shows, maybe they're leaning towards out on him. I don't know that it's definitive either way, because I think it would probably make sense to make these moves regardless of whether, they were in or out on Levis. But I'm not sure there's as strong a signal with Levis as there is with the team as a whole.
Well, they have decided to call Leroy Watson the starter. It sounds like Jalen Duncan is going to IR. That means that they have 2 roster spots open, by the way, because of the DeAndre Hopkins, Ernest Jones trade, and because of him going to IR. They have 2 roster spots open. But they're going with Leroy Watson. And I feel like the stuff yesterday, and we played it at the top of the show, that was coming out of Bill Callahan's mouth was just some grade A yapping, gaslighting stuff. And this has been a maddening thing, the way they've handled the right tackle position since the offseason. And I remember a tweet that you put out talking about what Bill Callahan has worked with and who has been, the best offensive lineman in terms of Pro Bowl and All-Pro and or All-Pro that Bill Callahan has coached and where they were drafted. Talk a little bit about that, and should we be surprised that Bill Callahan's not able to get something out of the mess that is the players on the roster?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people maybe wrongly, or definitely wrongly, assume that Bill Callahan was like a miracle worker, right? Like he is a very good offensive line coach. The results that he's gotten out of the past, 16 years, really since he returned to the NFL in that offensive line role, have demonstrated he is one of the best of the best. You listen to players who play for him. You listen to agents around the league who want to send their players to play for him because of what they know he can do for their career. He does make a difference, but it doesn't mean he can take any player, of any caliber and turn them into a quality starter. And I think that's kind of the fallacy. And you look at the guys who have made All-Pro or Pro Bowl under Callahan's tutelage. And I think the list was 13. Out of those 13, I believe it was 11. It was 10 were first-round picks. One was a high second-round pick in Joel Bitonio, and then the other 2 were Wyatt Teller and Brandon Moore. Wyatt Teller was a 5th-round pick, and then Brandon Moore was a UDFA. So out of all those guys, I mean, almost all of them are top 35 picks in the draft. So you do need talent to get the high-level production. And look, they've got 2 high picks on the left side of the line, and I fully expect him to be able to maximize J.C. Latham and Peter Skoronski. Lloyd Cushenberry, I believe, was a 3rd-round pick, maybe for the Broncos. I'm failing to remember that right now, but has a pedigree, has shown he can play at the NFL level. I think he's going to do wonders for those guys by the end of the season, and that will become a real strength. But that right side, they don't have anybody who's really shown they can play at average or above average NFL level for a starter, and they're going to need to get some more talent over there for him to work with.
We're talking to Mike Herndon about all things Tennessee Titans. You can hear him frequently on Football and Other F Words every Wednesday here on 104.5 The Zone, and you can read his stuff over at pk.com.
Yeah, Mike, you just mentioned that the left side, the left guard, Skoronski, I guess, has played, up to par. I would say this. Who's played better, Dylan Radins at right guard or Skoronski at left guard?
For me, it's definitely Skoronski, and I know he had a rough, little start to the season, but I think Skoronski has been much better, especially as a run blocker. And Radins has had some moments, right? Like he's made some very nice blocks, especially on some of those pulls that they like to run with that power concept. And he's done, a serviceable job at right guard. I don't think he's played poorly, and I think it's kind of intriguing. I think he's probably making himself a little bit of money right now. And we'll see if maybe he does become a piece that you want to re-sign, not for a crazy contract in the offseason, but if you could bring him back and get some continuity and then really just focus your attention on fixing right tackle, which is really, that is the big red blinking light right now on that group. Maybe you do start to build some continuity, because I think that's another part of this that maybe people aren't giving enough credence to. None of these guys really played next to each other ever before. There's not any two combination in this entire offensive line that are lined up next to each other who have ever taken a snap next to that player before this season. This is a whole new deal for all those guys, and that stuff matters on the offensive line. You talk to anybody who's been around that position, and they will tell you that matters a lot as far as how they're able to pass off. We've seen them struggle with stunts and things like that up front, twists and games and things like that. That all comes down to reps and communication and understanding how the other guy's going to play it without having to even, talk about it or recognize it. You just know because you've played 100, games with that guy. It doesn't have to be 100, but that's an exaggeration. But you have the reps banked next to that guy that how he's going to play it. And I think they're getting those reps in, and you would still hope by the end of the season you're starting to see some traction along that front. But I don't know if you're going to get there with right tackle. I just don't think they have the player that they need to plug in there.
I know with trade deadline a couple of weeks away, do you think the Titans are still going to be in the trade market here? Do you expect them to have some more trades here before the couple of weeks are up?
I would say that they should certainly have their ears open. The two guys that we saw them trade, obviously expiring contracts with DeAndre Hopkins and Ernest Jones. So guys that they would have had to re-sign after the season that weren't necessarily going to be a part of the future. They could have re-signed Ernest Jones, and he's young enough that you could have seen that. But, as I've kind of mentioned, I thought he was a bit of an odd fit next to Kenneth Murray. You could argue maybe they should have chose Jones over Murray, and I would hear that argument, but I don't mind them grabbing that fourth-round pick and a guy in Jerome Baker that I do think is worth a look there down the stretch. But I think other guys that fit that category, Sebastian Joseph Day, who has played some pretty good football for them up front, but is probably not a long-term piece of that defensive line. I think he could be moved. I could see Quandre Diggs, again, a guy on a one-year deal who has played some pretty good football, could have some value to a contender, but isn't really a part of the long-term plan here. I think those are two guys. And then Tyler Boyd on the other side of the ball, again, veteran, could help a contender, not really a part of the future of this franchise beyond this season, most likely. I think those are the three names that jump out. And then the bigger names like Landry and Simmons, to me, I think you should listen, but you would have to be bowled over with an offer, like a first-round plus maybe for Simmons, or a high second or a second plus for Landry before I would even remotely consider those, because those guys are under contract beyond this season and for reasonable contracts for what they are. I think Simmons has underperformed a little bit, but we've seen him play to that level before, and I think he could get back there. So it would take a lot for me to move anybody that had any more than 11 games left on their deal at this point.
Well, naturally, when I talked about the trade deadlines in a couple weeks, I know from a media's perspective as well as from a fan perspective, we'd love to hear what direction they're going as far as from the GM and Brinker, who's all over the, trade and all the inner workings of the football side of it. But if you were the GM and you're still part of the process of trying to do deals, if you were the GM, Mike Herndon, GM of the Tennessee Titans, would you be doing a presser now to explain everything to the media as well as to the fan base? Or would you wait till the end? Why or why not?
I think it's pretty reasonable to wait till the end of the trade deadline and address it all at once. I mean, I know people want to hear from Rand now just because Hopkins was such a popular player. And frankly, Ernest Jones has become pretty popular too, both in their relatively short stays here. But if they're still working on deals, I mean, you don't want to have to trot them out for a press conference every week after they make more trades, right? So I'm sure they're still working the phones, talking to people, and I would probably try to batch it all up after the trade deadline and explain it and say, look, this is why we made these moves. These are all the moves. Obviously, we're done with it now and moving forward to our off-season planning. So I have no issue with him waiting until the deadline to speak on it.
You wrote a great article, and I have to ask you about my last question. That is on the Ridley 36 targets. Kind of take us through a little bit of what you found out in that information and doing your research on the targets to Ridley so far this season.
Yeah, it's interesting with Ridley because the production has been kind of stunningly bad for Ridley, considering, I mean, he does lead the team in targets with 36, but he's only caught 12 of those, which, obviously 33% catch rate is extraordinarily low. And if you look at all the other starting, members of this offense, whether it's the backs, the tight ends, the other wide receivers, all of them are over 67%. So he is literally less than half of the catch rate of any other target. So if it was just the quarterbacks, that would be an odd thing for that to be that far off of the pace. So I do think it has to be something with Ridley. And so that's why I went back and kind of dug into all this. And I think there's a few things going on. I think it was 17 of his 36 targets have come in the fourth quarter of games when they're down, which is a very large percentage of his total targets. And those are low percentage throws because, look, I mean, the other team knows you're going to pass. They know that you want to go to Ridley. It's tougher pass defenses, tighter windows, all that stuff. And your quarterback is also making more risky throws in that part of the game, right? Because there's nothing to lose at that point. You've got to attack. You've got to be aggressive. So I think that's part of it, is somewhat the mix of when they're getting in the ball. He only has 5 first-quarter targets this year, which I think is ridiculous for a guy who is supposed to be, quote-unquote, the Jamar Chase of this receiving core, that they want to feature him. Get him going early. I mean, I know in an ideal world this wouldn't matter, but it does matter. It's a people game, right? And wide receivers touching the ball early gets them into the game. It gets them, feeling like they're a part of it, gets their confidence up early, and kind of starts them into a rhythm. Maybe they're running that dig a little bit harder because they've got a couple catches already and they feel like they're off to a good start. So I think getting his confidence up, getting some early, easy touches for him has got to be a big priority. And you can't force it necessarily, but it's got to be a priority for this offense moving forward. And then I also just think Ridley's got to catch the ball sometimes too. I mean, he does have 4 drops. That's too many. That needs to be toned down for sure. But, I think about 50% of his passes have actually been catchable too. So that's an extremely high rate. So when I looked at it, it kind of broke down as like there was about, I think it was 16 catchable passes, 16 non-catchable passes, and then 4 that I felt like were borderline. So it's right at 50-50 as to whether or not it's even a catchable ball getting to him. So it's a little bit of everything. It's the quarterback, it's the mix of the passes, and it's Ridley's got to catch the ball too. But I think the biggest thing to me is they've got to start getting him involved earlier in the game. And I think that'll help with the drops. I think that'll help with everything. So that's to me, the one thing that they have to do moving forward is get Ridley the ball in the first quarter. Get him going.
That's Mike Herndon, columnist for PK.com, covering the Tennessee Titans.
And it sounds like, to all the coaches that they're trying to, but sometimes the quarterback's just not throwing it their way. And speaking of the quarterback, Mason Rudolph going to get the start. And I know everybody, for whatever reason, keeps reporting it. He's likely getting the start. He's likely getting the start. Like, guys, we've known he's getting the start since, like, Monday. So, he's getting the start. He's going to get a full week of practice, but Calvin Ridley only practices today. He didn't practice the rest of the week. And we're talking about chemistry. We're talking about Calvin Ridley getting involved. And we're talking about Mason Rudolph, who is a professional who should still be able to get Calvin Ridley the ball. But what do you expect from Mason Rudolph? Because we talked yesterday. This was from Lucas Panzica's, his brainchild. Like, can a locker room really fracture over not playing Mason Rudolph? Like, no offense to Mason Rudolph, but is that really the hill the players are going to die on? So what do you really expect, though, from a full week of Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, I can't imagine that the locker room is going to get out the pitchforks for Rudolph. And, again, that is no slight to him. I actually think he played great last year down the stretch for the Steelers, and was kind of excited that they signed him to be the backup, because I do think he's a competent backup. But I do think he's a backup. I don't know that we're going to see him turn into a Sam Darnold or Geno Smith, like late career resurgence kind of guy. But I think with a week of practice, he should be better. And obviously the reps and chemistry with Ridley maybe not there. But Tyler Boyd. I'm assuming we'll see some Jaquan Jackson at wide receiver in this game, and I don't know if we're going to get the Bryce Oliver call up that we all kind of want here, but I think he's going to be able to do some things. I don't think this Lions defense is necessarily elite on the back end. I think they're okay, but I wouldn't say this is a top 5 secondary. So it'll be interesting to see how he looks with a full week of reps and maybe knocking some rust off last week.
Let me ask you this on that front, because I was going to ask you about the wide receivers. You said Bryce Oliver, you said Jaquan Jackson, but I'm going to throw out a name that I can't believe I'm throwing out after years of saying I wish people would quit talking about him. But I think that if, like, your Calvin Ridley replacement that's currently on this roster, or if he were to get injured or to be limited, it's going to be Mason Kinsey, right? Didn't we see that all in preseason, that he was playing the Calvin Ridley role all through preseason for this offense? He's likely to get the start over Bryce Oliver, even though I'm an Oliver guy. It feels like this could be a Mason Kinsey call-up game, not a Bryce Oliver call-up game.
I do agree. I think Kinsey could be in the Ridley role, but I think Oliver's more of the Hopkins role. And to me, I guess it depends. We're not going to have Treylon Burks, who is really Hopkins' backup in that X role for them. So I think Oliver would kind of be the next man up there, because I don't think you want to play Jaquan Jackson at X. And I don't think you want to play Mason Kinsey either, although I think they did talk about him being able to play all 3 positions and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting to me, because I could see Bryce Oliver potentially playing a lot if they want to keep Boyd in the slot and they want to keep Ridley playing that kind of Z flanker role that he's been in. So it'll be interesting to see how they deploy the wide receiver reps, because I could totally see Bryce Oliver ending up being a guy that gets like 40 snaps in this game out of nowhere, and that being the way that they go about it. So it'll be interesting to watch for sure.
It's just, that's just how they used them in preseason. I'm just trying to follow the context clues here. It's not that I personally think they should. I personally think I'm with you. It should be NWI and.
I blanked on it.
You didn't mention them, and I thought you may have blanked. So I figured it'd be NWI and Ridley, and then Tyler Boyd, Jaquan Jackson, then Mason Kinsey would be probably the 5th.
Yeah, I blanked out NWI somehow after defending him against this fan base for the better part of a decade now. He'll get the Hopkins role, and it'll be him, Boyd, and Ridley predominantly, I would imagine.
Last question before I let you go, and it'd be remiss of me not to bring up Texas's loss, of course, last week to Georgia, but also they are playing Vandy this week, and apparently Isaiah Bond is too scared of Vandy to show up to the game. Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, he has an injury.
Sure, an
how
injury.
did the game go this past week? By the way, I didn't watch that one.
I didn't either. I blacked out.
Okay, all right,
It's completely erased from my mind. Never
I was
happened.
at the F1 race. Yeah, I missed that one. Yeah, it was. Look, Vandy's a good story, but Texas is about to come into town and get back to what they have been all year until they just had a horrible first half against Georgia. And I think Quinn Ewers will bounce back and play well in this game. And unfortunately, in Vandy's little Cinderella run as a ranked team here.
It's interesting because you guys, Texas is not favored as much against Vandy as Alabama was. So I thought that was also interesting too. But either way, thank you, Mike Herndon, for joining us. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike Herndon NFL. We've been talking all things Titans with him. We'll continue the Titans discussion when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, Tennessee, fall is here and in full swing, and Cool Ray's here to make sure your home is ready for all the fun in the fall season. And we've got some sizzling deals that will keep you comfortable and worry-free all season long. So ensure your family stays hydrated and healthy with free water quality testing, because nothing beats a refreshing drink of pure water on a nice fall day. And Cool Ray also offers a $149 main sewer line camera inspection. And right now, they also offer 15% off whole home dehumidifiers as well as $500 off whole home generators. So let Cool Ray take care of your home so you can focus on making family memories. So call us today at 615-709-8699. That's 709-8699 to take advantage of these scorching hot deals. That's Cool Ray, your trusted partner for a cool and comfortable Tennessee fall. And all you have to do is go visit on the website, coolray.com.
Hello, I'm Ashley Northington, Chair of Moving Forward of Middle Tennessee. The upcoming transit referendum is a game changer for our economy, business leaders, and the entire community. A robust transit system is essential for a thriving economy. With 54 miles of high-capacity transit corridors and 86 miles of new sidewalks, this plan enhances Nashville's connectivity, making it easier for everyone to get where they need to go. This isn't just about transportation, it's about economic empowerment. For business leaders, reliable transit means a more productive workforce. Shorter commutes boost productivity and job satisfaction, helping businesses attract and retain top talent. Improved transit also drives sales and supports local economies by making it easier for customers to reach businesses. The benefits extend to the entire community, connecting people to essential services, education, and recreation. This creates a more inclusive city where everyone can access the resources they need to thrive. Supporting the Choose How You Move transit referendum is an investment in our future. This is about creating a city where businesses can flourish, residents can thrive, and the community enjoys a higher quality of life. Join me in backing this transformative opportunity. Let's build a Nashville where everyone has the opportunity to succeed and to prosper. Visit the link in the caption to learn more about the referendum, how it will support our community, and how you can get involved. Thank you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. 615-737-1045. We're taking your calls on Tennessee Titans and Vanderbilt football this week since University of Tennessee is off. But first, North Point Roofing Systems has teamed up with 104.5 The Zone to award a new roof to one deserving homeowner in the community. If you believe you or someone you know is the most deserving homeowner in the Middle Tennessee community, register for your chance to win here now through November 3rd at 1045thezone.com. Get you a new roof for sure. All right. So we were just talking it's about the Titans and all that kind of stuff with Mike Herndon, and we kind of hit on the Mason Rudolph stuff. I want to talk about what Mason Rudolph had to say yesterday and stuff that we have both kind of said at different points in the show this week about Mason Rudolph. Like I said, I wish he would have got all the first team reps last week. And you said, I think yesterday, well, when we were having our discussion about Mason Rudolph and, quote unquote fracturing the locker room over Mason Rudolph, you're like, well, let's see what he is, this week with a full work of practice. So this is what Mason Rudolph had to say about his week and yesterday's locker room availability. This is, I believe, courtesy of A to Z Sports Nashville. The Mason Rudolph clip from that as I sent this morning, but it's Mason. It's the only one that says Mason Rudolph as we're doing that. So when the clip is available, we'll get it played and get it ready. But essentially, I think it kind of goes down the path that we both have talked about these last, this week about Mason Rudolph in Miami. He's coming off the bench. He gets to only kind of see and observe some of the plays that were going on and being practiced on through the week. Excuse me. And then everybody's like, well, he just threw for 90-something yards. Okay, well, I mean, he didn't really have a full week of having the practice reps. Mm-hmm. And then this last week, he didn't really have the majority of the practice reps heading into it. Now, he's a pro. He's a backup. They got to be ready when their number's called. But I think that is some of the limitations of what you've seen Mason Rudolph and maybe some of the lack of chemistry. Here's what Mason Rudolph had to say in his locker room availability.
It's good. I think as a backup quarterback, you're always trying to visualize, whether it, stimulating your mind, going in first quarter, fourth quarter, or starting later in the week. But when you know early on, it's much better, and you can really get all the reps. And like I said, through the week, routes on air, start working with the receivers, working on the nuances. So it's always fun. Would you like?
So, but essentially, getting the full week, feeling good, getting to know the people. He also, with maybe Mason Kinsey and or Bryce Oliver being called up, he has chemistry with them too, so it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But obviously, we could see a better version of the Mason Rudolph we saw just this last Sunday. But is it going to be the enough of a Mason Rudolph or enough of an increase or improvement to really matter against the Detroit Lions?
Well, you never know. That's what the NFL is all about. You don't know. I mean, everything looks like, oh, man, Detroit should just kind of smoke them. It's not even going to be a game. So if he can make a competitive game and they're in a game to the end and he has a good game, then, you start considering, can he be our guy against a really good team who is going to be a playoff contending team? So I thought last week, I asked the question, did he even practice with the one, especially with Levis being a younger player? He might only practice a little bit, with the one. So, yeah, chemistry, nuance, timing and everything like that is really big for the quarterbacks. And the way he likes things compared to other quarterbacks is always a little bit different. And then, as you mentioned, probably working on the scout team over there, sometimes he was, connecting with the other players that now may be up and at him in this game, whether it's Kinsey, Oliver, whoever it may be, may have a great connection with NWI. I have no idea, but it seemed like Oliver had a great connection with Willis more so in preseason.
And Rudolph had a really good connection with Mason Kinsey, which is another reason why
Kinsey had a messed up finger a little bit there at the
Yeah.
end. And so I remember he had some dropsies there. I know at least on the outcut I saw that I normally thought he would catch. So it'll be interesting. And then, and to your point on Kinsey too, I was real interested that he was playing on the outside, and you call it the X. I don't know if that's really the best spot for him to have success. And the reason why I say that is because of his size, not because of anything else. Usually those are kind of the pivot, change of direction guys that play the slot. So it'll be interesting to see in a starting effort of going against starters if size will make a difference now, because all the cornerbacks now are kind of on the outside are these 6'1" long arm guys. That's why McCrary's in the slot, because a lot of times, not to say they won't have guys like I don't know the length of some of those guys. I know Branch from Alabama's there, and he's really good. He kind of quasi nickel safety with them, but he's a really good player. I don't know who the corners are there, but that can cause smaller guys a little bit of trouble just getting off the line. I know he's quick. I know he's fast, but until you're out there against one competition, even Oliver too, but he's not. He's a little bit bigger. You got to take that into account. So I thought he was more solid. I thought they were utilizing him in the wrong way, to be honest, personally.
Yeah, he had 31 receiving snaps in the preseason and played 28 of them out wide. And it was shocking. It was very shocking because we talked about it, and that's why I'm with you. I think sometimes size matters when it comes to your outside. I mean, he's 5'11", 203. Take that for what you will, but really, Bryce Oliver's got that more explosive
really
element.
5'11"?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Well, I've seen him in person. No.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen him in person. I can't say that or anything. But like to me, Bryce Oliver is more explosive. He's got the size that you're looking for. He's got that go up and get it mentality too, like see ball, get ball, try to make a play on it no matter what. I mean, he made some there were some really good throws by Malik Willis, but they were followed by some really spectacular catches, really impressive catches by Bryce Oliver. I mean, to me, that's the guy I'd rather have. If you're rotating in and out with Calvin Ridley, that's the guy I'd rather put out there. But we'll see what they do. To me, the only reason you're going to see Jaquan Jackson out there on the outside is if there is a run play and they need two wide receivers and they're just like, we'll give Calvin Ridley a rest, or they're going to do an end around or wide receiver screen and try to give him the ball in space. I don't think he's your outside guy. Tyke Tolbert kind of agrees as well in some comments he made yesterday. So he just kind of said he's an inside guy.
See?
And that's where I think he's at either. So, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see who they call up from the practice squad, because obviously someone should get called up, or they're just going to be rolling with four wide receivers, with one of them having been injured and missed most of the week. So it'll be interesting to see who they call up. I don't know if we'll know that before the games start, but it'll be very interesting. When we come back, we'll continue talking about the Tennessee Titans. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone. Clients here of 104.5 The Zone, and as the resident sports analytics nerd, I know data, and the numbers tell me that the dual power of radio and digital on 104.5 has always delivered for local advertisers. Now's your chance to book your 2025 marketing campaign early with special savings and incentives. Reach out today to your local ad representative or go to 1045thezone.com/epic.
Hey, it's Blaine Bishop here for 104.5 The Zone. The dual power of radio and digital on 104.5 has always delivered results for the local advertisers. Now's your chance to book your 2025 marketing campaign early with this special savings and incentive. So reach out today to our local representatives, or you can just go to 1045thezone.com/epic.
Hey, Brent Doherty with
Cover 2, hour 2, here on 104.5 The Zone. Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons, 615-737-1045 if you want to talk Tennessee Titans. Next segment, we'll be talking to Kyle Turley about offensive line play, former player of the New Orleans Saints and I guess at the time that would have been St. Louis Rams. I guess at that time.
Right. That's right.
So Will Levis spoke to the media, this week. He was in the locker room and they talked to him yesterday, and we got a little bit of sound bites. But I want to get your thoughts first, because again, we're talking about Mason Rudolph now getting most of the first team reps, if not all of them. I would assume all of them so far this week. But we've also been talking about what can Will Levis learn? Is he willing to learn while he is not taking these reps about maybe the nuances of the quarterback position, what he's observing on the sideline? So this is Will Levis talking about what he can learn from being on the sidelines.
100%. No, we got to take those mental reps and treat them like game reps. And I've made sure that every rep that I'm not getting, I'm still getting. And Trevor's been great. He's been a great help. He knows a lot about football. So having him back there with us, talking through the plays, has been a great help. But yeah, I'm just trying to be as involved as I can with the different position groups and quarterbacks especially, but taking those mental reps as seriously as possible.
So Trevor, it took me a little bit to remember, who is Trevor?
Simeon.
Is that an assistant coach? But it's Trevor Simeon, the practice squad quarterback. So I do find it a little interesting that he's learning from Trevor Simeon, but that's okay. At least you're learning from somebody that has played the game.
Well, I think he's talking about when he's on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And
Mason's probably on the field.
Yeah.
But at least he's taking this opportunity to understand what this offense needs to look like and what this offense needs to do, even if maybe sometimes the offense is not looking great. Mm-hmm. Maybe that is something that he can use to grow, right?
Well, you hope so, because you can learn from standing there, but ultimately you're going to learn the most when you're in a game, especially at the quarterback position. So maybe he can have a refresh, reboot, and getting back on course when he comes back from his injury. So yeah, there are a lot of things you can learn, but ultimately you got to be on the field to actually experience them in time live. There's no way around it. So I'm just hoping it clears his mind, to be honest.
Yeah. Maybe this could be a good mental reset for him, right? He can learn a little bit more about himself, what he needs to, do to be ready, to be prepared, and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully maybe this is a soft reset for him, and he can get out of his head a little bit and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of why you hear them constantly talking about, well, if Will Levis is healthy, he can play, because he doesn't want to. The worst thing, I guess, let me rephrase this. Could it be a bad thing for Will Levis if they didn't come out in full support constantly? Because then maybe he's in his own head that, man, maybe I need to press, or maybe I need to do this to try to get my job back because I'm going to lose my job. Like for Will Levis, or putting him in his shoes, because you've kind of talked about it with a couple of high school players that you coached, but the benefits of sitting on the sideline. But is it good for someone to feel like, oh, man, am I going to lose my job to Mason Rudolph because I got injured or I'm hurt?
Well, I think that element comes from himself.
Yeah.
And that will be based off the performance by Mason Rudolph. So if he plays well, yeah, it should cross his mind. And, at the pro level, I don't think he'll be saying, am I the guy, or, will I lose my job? And so then they'll just prolong that and say, make sure you stay healthy. My position was I wanted to get some experience because our other corner actually played both ways. So I had an incentive to get this guy some experience. That way, when I had to play him later down the road, which is exactly what happened, I wanted to feel comfortable, and let alone the coaching staff comfortable. So it was more reason. And I wanted him to be fully healthy. See, so there was a lot of different mechanisms here that I think are somewhat similar, but not the same, because of the mindset of a professional athlete to a high school athlete. So you should be a lot more mentally tougher. You shouldn't be asking anybody that. So I had to think at the pro level.
Yeah.
You are playing based off your salary or based off of you the starter now. If you are injured, typically you lose your job to injury unless the other guy is just the same or equal, and then you just say you slow play until they come back to the norm. If they don't, you keep that guy out there. That's how it works in the pros, or based off your salary.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, there's, the politics of, we paid this guy, he plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so, you don't, shout for that. And I don't know where Mason Rudolph, I know he's on a 1-year deal, so obviously they're trying to develop and see if Levis can be a franchise quarterback. So that's going to give him more opportunity than not unless Mason Rudolph, blows off the doors here the next couple games if he's starting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So going to the injury side of things, he did speak about his injury in yesterday's press conference. And he was specifically asked about where his injury was at heading into the Colts game and about playing in that Colts game maybe with that injury, and did it hurt him? Did it hinder him? And here's what Will Levis had to say about his injury heading into the Colts game.
Do you feel like things with the shoulder got worse after the Indy game, or was the Indy game sort of a awakening that you needed more time than maybe you thought and you weren't as capable of doing as much as you hoped?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I knew that the week of practice after the Indy game, I wasn't feeling as hot as I was the week before. So I don't know if it was like something happened in the game or just like after playing in a game and putting the stress underneath it, like it just happened. But I was pushing to play. I thought I had the capability to go out there and play at a level that could help us win. And at that point in the season, it was a huge game for us in terms of, I thought if we could win that one and that could get us back rolling, like we could get something going. So it was a tough situation, and I don't regret playing in the game. That's for sure.
So it's the answers surrounding Will Levis's injury up until this point have from Will Levis and Brian Callahan and Nick Colts have kind of had muddled messaging. And I think a little bit of people started thinking that maybe Brian Callahan made the wrong decision of letting Will Levis play in the Colts game. But it sounds like everybody was on the same page heading into the Colts game. Mm-hmm. And now he said that he didn't know if maybe he, hurt himself in the Colts game during the game. But then he said something, well, I don't feel like I can make the throw, right after that game. I couldn't make the throw. In that one game, because I felt like my injured shoulder played a part in that, and then I had someone in my lap. And then, Brian Callahan says, well, we felt that he could make every throw possible. It's just, to me, I guess, long way of saying, I feel like that the way that they handled that situation, they handled it the best they could. I don't find any fault or anything wrong in it. The only thing that I think that you could say that you may have an issue with is how they handled the week of practice leading in to that, where maybe not getting enough reps for Mason Rudolph and trying to press to get Will Levis, hopefully really testing that arm out through that week of practice maybe did more harm than good heading into the game last weekend.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because there was no sign and no doubt, it seems as though going into the Colts game, that he was going to play.
I think he was a full participant in every practice.
So there was nothing there, at least from his part, telling them that he felt like his arm was getting weak. So and he's not getting hit in practice, so we got to put that into account. And then, once you get in the game, I said initially the AC joint, which is what I had, but I'm not a quarterback, typically takes 3 to 4 weeks. I couldn't imagine if I was throwing. I don't know how much that impacts your throwing motion. I'm not a doctor. So, but, maybe a week or two of rest might have helped going in. But I get it. He was trying to be a tough soldier, and I went through this whole dialogue of, are you injured or are you hurt? And then that's always a tough decision for an NFL player. I always chose that I was just injured and I'm going to play. Because nobody cares if you're injured, if you're out there playing. This is an entertainment sport. Nobody cares. If you can't, get it done in a game, then go sit down and let the other guy play. That's just kind of the way it is, and that's the only way it's always going to be. And so, to me, it felt somewhat more of an excuse after the fact because he couldn't make that deep end throw, because that's really the throw that bothered me. And I know he got hit on the throw, but a guy with his arm talent, he should whip it there. And he threw it late. Let's start there. So was it because his shoulder got weaker as the game went on? Well, maybe that should have been a factor that he should have been relaying along to the coaches or the training staff to make sure, they stay hand in hand. Obviously, he thought he could tough it through and, he couldn't. So now they're doing this. So I think everybody's been honest, but I feel like now you can't come back and then say that was the reason. It's just the nature. Even if that was true, everybody's going to say, that was the excuse, right? You can't make any excuses when you're the quarterback and you're the head coach. At the end of the day, it's just, no, I just didn't make a good throw.
Yep.
That's it. That's all you got to say. I didn't make a good throw.
Don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
That's that. Just keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll talk more about the Detroit Lions versus Tennessee Titans. We'll also talk to Kyle Turley, former offensive lineman in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey guys, this is Blaine for Edge Peptide Therapy. And listen, I've been hearing about peptides and peptide therapy now for a few months, and I was curious. So I finally went to Edge Peptide Therapy to find out more. And they did a full blood panel that showed where my body had some small deficiencies. Then they came up with a tailor-made plan to address those areas with peptides. And since I have started my peptide therapy, I have noticed that I'm full of energy and focus. And now this month, Edge is offering a special on their recovery peptides. And recovery peptides are great for healing post-injury or surgery. You recover quicker from your workouts, even if you have some joint pain, aches and pains, arthritic pain, like myself being a former NFL player, back, knee pain, or overall inflammation from old and new sports injuries. So recovery peptides help with all of this. So if you're looking for an alternative to surgery, consider talking to Edge first. And this month, Edge is offering $150 off your first peptide package for new clients. So why not get started now? So go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call at 724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045 if you want to talk Tennessee Titans. But first, we're going to go into our studio guest. We have Kyle Turley, former NFL offensive lineman for the New Orleans Saints and St. Louis Rams. And I forgot the Kansas City Chiefs, too.
Oh, my.
Yeah, man. I forgot about that.
Who was the coach there?
Herm, man.
Herm. Herm. Okay, yeah.
Aztec. That's right.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Herm's a good dude, man.
Great guy. Love that guy.
Now, we have over here at the Tennessee Titans, we had Peter Skoronski, who was a left tackle in college, who got moved inside to left guard. So can you kind of talk about the growing pains of that and why it may have taken a year and a half for Peter Skoronski to start hitting his stride?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of coaches that have that philosophy. I mean, you draft a tackle high in those rounds.
You have a pick.
Yeah, but you got even Jonathan Ogden played guard his first year in the league.
Oh,
that's crazy to think.
He was
6'10".
He was super athletic. I felt like I could never run around him on the blitz.
Exactly. To learn the game, though, at the offensive line position is the most important thing. And to learn how to operate. You got an extreme talent, that is just a lockdown guy that nobody else could compete with in practice at tackle, then you got to put him there. But if you got a tackle that can get it done, you're better off with your franchise players as linemen, learning. I played guard my first year. I was thrown to the fire, played tackle, guard, everything really, but they anchored me in the beginning at guard in between a 10-year center and Willie Rofe.
Well, let's ask them, did you like that even though you were a tackle?
No, it was completely foreign. It was completely foreign. I was like, now I got to block guys like John Randall. And then, but that actually worked in my favor because I was more of an athletic, guy. But going against guys like Warren Sapp and, Goose and all those dudes, that's another story where you got to put an anchor in the ground and come off the ball. I was, 300, 310, whatever, when I was playing. But still, some of those to play guard, you want those big body guys, those road graders.
Guard. Now talk a little bit about, we've had Callahan here who's got a history of being a great offensive line coach in the National Football League. He always talks about, because they've had this issue, is the anchoring.
Yes.
Whether you were tackle or guard, kind of take us through different pass rushes and why that is difficult when you get in the National Football League to anchor. Is because the guys are so much faster and quicker, and then they set you up so many different moves, kind of take you. Why is that a difficult deal?
There's a lot to that. There's a lot of guys working on both sides of the ball. So the O-line needs to catch up, right? I mean, you got Chuck Smith down there in Atlanta and all these guys out here that have all these programs now that have developed, into, producing all this.
He's now on the staff with the Ravens.
Exactly. Because of that, he built a base program of, individual coaching that then transformed and started pipelining guys to the league at that position that were doing that Chuck Smith hand swipe, right? You lost that from that guy by not giving him a job and keeping him coaching the NFL, and it's now resurging. So you see these linemen. And on the converse of that, you got a lot of coaching out here at the offensive line position that is very much more so predicated upon lower body, which is ironic that they're saying they can't find their anchor. The problem is that we've lost the punching aspect of this. Tunch Ilkin was a guy, Tunch's punches, this was around. And you just don't see that. It's all now lower body, these huge lower body guys, and they're not athletic enough to understand the importance of seeing with your hands and thinking with your feet. That meant your feet have to be extra fast. So we prided ourselves on the ropes and all these other quick twitch footwork movement instead of all this slow, big body stuff that I see out here right now with, I coached O-line. I've coached at junior college, high school. You get these guys out here now, and there's this mentality that kind of diverted away from that to this what we're seeing now. And so guys have to understand, of course, you got to look at that defender's inside leg, center mass, keep it between you. If he beats you inside or outside with that center, that inside leg, you're going to get beat most times. That's the factor. Outside of that, you got to learn how to see with your hands. You should be able to close your eyes, which I had to do many times when we played with all them concussions, and have to just sort it out because you're seeing three people in front of you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, with like NPF right now, they're trying to establish an anchor, and he's a guy that came from Ohio State. He was a five-star athlete coming into college, and he just doesn't have, and it's something that he's admitted. He's trying to learn how to have the dog inside of him. We've kind of said that you got to either have it or you don't. That can't be taught, right?
No, it can. It can be taught. It definitely can. It comes down to coach. I mean, each one of these kids are dogs. You make it to the NFL, you're a dog. I don't care who you are. And it just has to be brought out in you. Those are those things that got you there. And there's certain individuals, there's certain coaches that have been able to do that, bring guys out, and just keep producing. I mean, look at Bill Belichick and the track record that he's had of bringing guys back from the dead, old guys, like believe in yourself again, demanding that they do that. And then it found that dog inside of them. The game itself, though, has a tendency, I think, to be, now like it feeds into that for guys to not have the dog. It's more based on talent than it is on dogs. You used to look for dogs. That's what it used to be. But now you got to watch out because that dog might throw a helmet.
like you did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and they don't want that. That's more scary than, whether or not he made a good block or whatever.
Well, naturally, we were on with Kyle Turley. You move from tackle to guard in the pros. Kind of take us through, and not necessarily a player, because sometimes it could be not an elite player that could give you trouble. It's just because of their style of how they would approach you. Kind of take us through certain things that would, bother you or give you trouble when you were in the pass sets, not necessarily the run, because I think all offensive linemen, you can address that, love running the football, because then you can then set up, the D tackle or the D end to then benefit you. So kind of take us through a player name or whoever you want to talk about what gave you issues and what was your counter. And did you have a counter to their counter, and did you see things in film and how you studied your individual matchups?
Yeah, man, I'm rolling through the Rolodex. I'm like, Reggie White, Bruce Smith, Kevin Green, all these great guys. Yeah, man. I had this, baptized by fire. My first game in the NFL was at Lambeau Field against Reggie White. Luckily, it was preseason. And he was only in for a few plays, and he was out, and I didn't get to have to drop back and take a bull rush from that dude at that age, But I got him back in his comeback with Carolina, and I knew right then I got to set an anchor on this guy. You talk about that anchor. I got to get back to the point of contact before he gets there, and I got to set this anchor, okay? And I got to position myself to let him know his move is countered right now, because it's a game of chess with the best players. They're capable of throwing you around like a rag doll, and you're as well. Able to do that. And so it's just imperative that, it's so important that you get back to that point of contact as a lineman, that you establish that I'm ready for you. That disrupts, and, setting a guy up for multiple moves, and those guys you had to go against, from Javon Curse here to, the freak and all the things he had to offer from then the beginning of Chuck Smith and then Kevin Green and all these guys in the late 90s I got to play with and against, to all the new guys and all the hand fighting, the spinning guys, the Dwight Freeneys, and
what was that spin move?
Right. So you knew you had to get back to that point of contact because he wasn't a huge guy, and so if I got back there quick and set my anchor, he's not going to bull rush me, and I have to be. All I got to do is be ready for that spin inside as a tackle. He goes outside. If I set that initial contact point, it's going to shape the pocket, and that's a lot of things that get lost in too much detailed technique. All these kids being focused on one sport, this, that, and the other. I was a surfer, a skateboarder, a wrestler. I played football my senior year of high school. I was every other sport, playing baseball and basketball, and being able to work on the fly as a true athlete. And that's maybe some of the things that are getting lost today, with these guys and the kids, not being able to just adjust. Because when I got in, it was I had to throw everything out. It was the game just elevated speed-wise to the next level, right? It became a man's game. It became the next level game where you got dudes out here that just this dude's like not real. Like he's not real right now. Like whoa,
I've never seen an athlete like this, man. So you went to San Diego State. You didn't overlap with Falk was before you though, right?
No, I came in his last year. He went out early, and that was the year I came to San Diego State, 1993.
Okay, all right, yeah, man.
So I didn't get to play with him, so it's cool coming back around with the Rams and playing with him and blocking for him.
Well,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you are kind of like watching, these players play maybe at the college level, what are you looking for to be like, okay, that guy can make it in the NFL? He may not be a known guy, but that guy can play. Is it multi-sport athletes? Is that high on your list, or is it just like technique, power? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, just if you jump off the page as an athlete, if you could tell and see a guy that he has athletic ability, then he's got potential. That's always the word, right? It's potential.
Mm-hmm.
You heard as a talented athlete coming up, that wasn't always the biggest or the strongest. It was always right there with everybody. It was always about potential. And so, I think as the game evolves and continues to move forward, what coaches just need to look for are those yes sir kids. You're losing a lot of that out here with too many people not being willing to go the extra mile, push themselves to the next limit, and it's, in my opinion, still contributing more to the 3.5-year career that is still existing in the National Football League, because it's not preparing these kids for what it is the game is and what it really needs to be to them. I mean, we're talking. Imagine if we didn't have two-a-days, I don't think these kids are really taking advantage of that,
Yeah.
Like the extra work that I would have got in, and all these guys that has so much talent at that level and that era, would have benefited from that, because the mindset we had was go till we drop. I mean, literally. I mean, there were life-flighting guys off the field. They wouldn't be able to run half the practices we went through.
Yeah. Who was the coaches there when you were with the Rams and the Saints? Who were the head coaches?
Rams, it was Mike Martz.
Breeze.
Mike Martz.
Oh, Mike
in
Martz.
St. Louis. In St. Louis, Mike Martz was a coach, and then Kurt Warner was initially there, but then they got in that whole deal with Mike Martz, and so he got pulled, and then Mark Bulger came in.
Oh, yeah, Bulger. Bulger. He lives here too, right?
Yeah, he's here.
Fantasy football legend Mark Bulger. He's won a lot of people, a lot of leagues back in the day.
Olympic curling
curling
guy.
Yeah.
Curling.
Yeah.
Him and Jared Allen going around in a tour bus. They said doing curling.
Because Mark Bulger lives in the area, right?
Yeah.
Isn't he from around here? Yeah.
He's
he doesn't have from around here, but he lives here.
He owns this T-line place, this curling place.
Okay, yeah.
Off the 40. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, naturally, what brought you to Tennessee being a West Coast guy? You were talking about surfing and all that. I've never surfed before in my life. I'd be scared that I'm going to see a shark or something.
I've seen them,
and it's
man.
just a dolphin or something.
No, man, it was a lot of fun. I've seen them, and it was awesome to be a part of that too. But football, really, I mean, at the end of the day, is what it was. I married a girl from Dyersburg, so I've been coming to, when I was in New Orleans, and I'd been coming back up there for years, for holidays, all that. And at the end of the career in 2007, she was like, "Oh, let's go look at Nashville." And I was like, "All right, cool, whatever." I was just assuming it was going to be flat like West Tennessee, there's nothing. And I was used to that from being in St. Louis and in New Orleans, Louisiana, everything's flat, right? So, and then I got here and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. This is, the rolling hills reminded me a lot of San Diego. At the time it was green. So it was really nice to be in a city that, kind of felt a little familiar. And then I'd had the South. I was in New Orleans for 5 years, and then St. Louis for 2, and then in Kansas City. So that Midwest and the South mix here in Nashville really spoke to me and the people and everything going on. And music. I mean, it was like, okay, I can do this. The wife wants to be here. We'll stay here. Plane flight away to go surfing, which I did a lot. And
then that led you to your business. You got another business going on, man. You're a jack of all trades here.
I'd have been here from 2007 till now. I would have never moved or went back to California if what happened to me didn't happen. Post-football career, I had all these issues in dealing with all of the neurological stuff. That was what really, we had the painkiller issue, but I wasn't a heavy addiction guy. But the neurological stuff was really things I was dealing with. I was in and out of the hospital a lot. I was having vertigo constantly. Ended up passing out at the basement, just watching a show. I was at the bar. Next thing I know, I'm waking up off the floor. Some guy's telling me, the ambulance is on the way. You didn't didn't have a pulse. I'm like, what? Like, and then go into full vertigo, went into a seizure, had to have nurses hold me down to MRI machine. Yeah, it was real bad. And so from 07 to 14, I was dealing with all this while I was also producing myself as a musician. It was another passion of mine. I went into music and was touring about 100 plus dates a year, coast to coast, but it really started to mount up. They were prescribing me after these episodes more and more of these opiates that were dealing with the psychological stuff to try and get rid of the vertigo, which didn't, it kind of helped that, but those things make you crazy because you're dealing with a crazy drug, and I wasn't, and although people would argue that, but these things didn't work for me, Depakote, Wellbutrin, Zoloft, these are zombie drugs. They made me almost want to kill myself multiple times. You created all these fantasies and things in your head that speak to our community and why we have a lot of our problems. And so I was just desperate and realized as I was hearing back from my friends in California, the opportunity to understand cannabis and what it can really do for you and the multitude of opportunities, I had to go back, and things weren't going well here, and we've had some deaths in the family and all kinds of other stuff. So it's kind of just speaking to that. In 2014, went back to California, and COVID brought us back 3 years ago. So, we got, kids, they're in middle school. Our kids go to Page and high school, and eighth grader and a sophomore, and they're athletes and all these other things, and I just thought, man, if I could fix some of these things that are going on with our community, then my kids, if they choose or whatever happens to them, then they'll be ahead of the game, because we were preyed upon by this pharmaceutical industry as athletes, and I never want that to happen to my kids. I haven't, and they've been some of the most productive and just hitting growth chart marks all the time. Doctors are saying they're the healthiest kids they've ever seen, and so I proved it with my kids. I proved it with myself. I proved it with my now ex-wife and her, skin cancers and other things that our family has had to deal with. And then giving that to football players that are going through the same stuff and seeing the resolutions in their life. I've got Ricky Williams, Jim McMahon, and other guys, Eben Britton, and then just since then, the magnitude of guys that have involved themselves from the sports community into cannabis alone, and now into mushrooms and all that. I'm carrying Jake Plummer's line, it brought me back here, COVID, and ever since I came back, I started understanding the opportunities in Tennessee. And I'm opening my first shop down in Columbia Monday.
What's the name of it? What's your name?
The Power Plant Depot is what I came up with. And, my goal is to hopefully have these become the GNC or vitamin shop of plant-based supplements, nutrition that, everyday person can use, the average Joe to your all-pro, out there that can understand the opportunity in health and wellness by using plant-based, things versus all these synthetics that are being created out here that have real true side effects that I experienced. For over 10 years, not taking one pharmaceutical, not an aspirin, not an leave, nothing for any pain, inflammation, no more vertigo, cured neuropathy in my legs and feet. Like I can run barefoot again, do all the sports I've ever wanted to do that I used to participate in, that you see me before in the past. I've been on a cane,
So all this stuff is tested and proven. Kind of take us through that process, what you learned when you went back to California.
Yeah, well, again, I learned how to use this. And, with its full opportunity originally in what was Prop 215, they moved into 64, which is a mess. And I own businesses in California. I put all my money all in cannabis. That's all I have, because I believe, firmly in the future of this. It's only the tip of the iceberg.
You're living proof of it, right?
Yeah, I'm living proof. So I have to go all in. And, bringing it back here is important to me. And then understanding the hemp laws in Tennessee versus the marijuana laws in California.
What are the laws?
Wow.
I don't know.
Oh, man, it's amazing. It was real struggle when I first got back here. I was like, man, you know what? I can't talk to the city council. I did that in California. I was, made a fool of myself in front of every city council in Southern California, fighting for the industry and the opportunity for people to have what ended up becoming what it is over 10 years ago, because of the experience I had. Because it's real. Cannabis saved my life, period. There ain't no doubt about it. And it does every day. And, and a lot of other people can be grateful as well, because, there's a real serious nature to this when it comes to our community and the things in life that happen. And, being able to treat those things and deal with life on a whole nother level where you're back to what you were when you were really driven, you know. You were trying to make yourself as an athlete, you know, and proving yourself and have that vigor and motor to your career as, a radio host and all these things in media that you set out to do and say, I'm going to do this. Like, it takes motivation, you know. I mean, it's a good paying job at first. Nothing ever is. And now here you are because you committed yourself. And we lose that as football players because of this disease, this CTE. And it's real. And all of these things can address that.
Right.
You know?
So what are the things you have?
It's crazy, you know, because people don't really want to give it the credit that it's due because it is such a known recreational, you know, thing. And from the flower, I mean, this is real stuff. This is the same thing as anything I sell at my shops in California. It's under hemp licensing, under Delta 9 testing standards, which is what Tennessee operates on, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and the other surrounding states like Missouri and others that are allowing the hemp opportunity to run. There's a lot of speculation of things coming up in Tennessee, people that have proposed bills that are coming down. But you know, I was told by Bill Lee that he cares about his constituents, you know, and trying to get in touch with him about cannabis. And this has proven it because I continue to go around to the shops that I'm at, and these products that I've enjoyed that have allowed me to stay away from any pills at all are on the shelves around here. And I'm, you know, an operator here selling to multiple shops, and I have my own now, you know, because I know the business, I know the opportunity, what it can do for the community. But I'm trying to expose, you know, what our message is, you know. So I got Ricky Williams products, I got Jim McMahon's products, I got Ricky's gummies here, and then all my other friends. And then, you know, there's some great opportunities for people that need to know about the laws of cannabis through my good friends at the Pop Brothers at Law, and guys out of California that just direct people on how to keep their mouth shut and deal with the police. Because the country's changing.
We got to go to break, but yes, I guess tell us the website where they can go find out more information and your location of where you're shopping.
Yeah, just go to Power Plant Depot on Instagram right now. I mean, the website's up, or domain is there, powerplantdepot.com, but really focus on building a web service that can service the entire country, because I can provide all of this to any doorstep in America. And so, but come down to Columbia, 2484. Monday we open, and I got everything, man. I got all the functional mushroom stuff, all of the different tinctures and root-based opportunities to pre-rolls and flour and vape carts and gummies and drinks, man. All these other things that, you know,
so they got water?
Yeah, water. CBD water is great,
CBD
man.
water.
Helps you really stay calm. But, you know, infused drinks, I got a whole line of my friend's company out in California that's making their THCA line. And it's incredible.
We'll make sure we get Zach some on the break and see if
get off
it
those
impacts him over
pills.
the break.
Yeah,
It
get
will.
off that
It
alcohol.
will.
That's right.
I got to drive home.
Appreciate it, y'all, man. Thank you,
me
man.
too.
Yeah. But that's Kyle Turley. Thank you for joining us. Power Plant Depot, your plant superstore and more, opens Monday in Columbia, Tennessee, 2484 Park Plus Drive, 38401. Thank you for joining us and giving us some insight and all
Thank you,
that.
man. I really appreciate it.
When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine and Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 you want to talk Tennessee Titans, or if you want to talk about Vandy versus Texas. But I would like to talk about Vandy versus Texas real quick. Texas lost to Georgia. They've played Oklahoma. They played Michigan. Other than that, not really an impressive schedule so far for the University of Texas. So I'm very interested to see what Vanderbilt can do. No Isaiah Bond. That should actually help Vanderbilt a little bit, maybe stay with it. But let's say Vandy wins. Do we begin the discussion that Vandy can make it into the college football playoffs? I mean, they have lost to Missouri. They're their 2-loss team. Missouri and Georgia State or Southern. I can't remember which one. But I mean, could they maybe sneak in with wins over Alabama, wins over Texas, a possible win over Tennessee at the end of the year?
No, but Georgia State, how does that factor in?
You see, that's the thing. But then you look at the wins that they have.
It's at the end of the season.
The wins are pretty good.
Oh, my.
Man, that's kind of crazy, isn't it?
I don't want to think that far because guess what? The reason why I say that?
Yeah.
I was there at the Ball State game, and they can say they look by Ball State. But guess what? You can't do that when you're Vandy. You can't do that. And it was a competitive game all the way to the fourth quarter. It was like tied up. And I was like, uh-oh. And Ball State right now is not at top of the heap of the MAC right now. I would say it's more at the bottom of the heap. So it was kind of interesting. Now, I don't know if they were practicing, Ball State stuff and everything else. But to me, if I'm Vandy, I'm never looking past anybody at this point in time. So, that kind of gave me a different viewpoint because everybody was saying Diego wasn't going to play, only going to play the half, and all that stuff. And then, it didn't look. It was all the way to the end.
So let me ask you this: if they beat Texas, okay, Vandy beats Texas, they need to tear down both goalposts, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
They can take both of them and throw them in the river.
Where's Texas?
Can they do that?
Now? Where's Texas? They I know they're not one, but
no, I think they're somewhere in the top 5.
Yeah, well, you got.
I don't have my list.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
You got to take both. Let's do both and carry both down. Yes.
No. You know how far that was? 3 miles.
They did it. They did. It wasn't phased at all. I mean, Sammy, I'll ask you behind the glass. I mean, shouldn't they just tear down both goalposts and take them down if they beat Texas?
Oh, absolutely. I think they should tear both down.
Yeah, I mean, what's $200,000 to the rich people of Vanderbilt, the rich alumni of Vanderbilt? Come on, just do it. I think you should just for the sheer chaos of it and comedy.
It was great though to see that.
Oh yeah. So let's switch gears. Tennessee Titans versus Detroit Lions. It was interesting, Blaine, the stats of Buffalo Bills defense. In the beginning of the first half, they played 95% zone against Tennessee Titans. When it came down to the second half, they started playing almost 50% man. So they really lean towards man. And now the Tennessee Titans are about to face Detroit Lions defense, which right now plays the 4th most man in the NFL. They play man 40.8% of the time. Obviously, maybe level of skill players plays into this, but what do you think about the man defense that maybe gives this Tennessee offense so much trouble?
Ooh, that's kind of interesting because I'm sure every play probably has its own set of rules of why that happened. Man, I would say it's simultaneous with the offensive line and protection and guys not getting open. And you don't even see where you can throw it open. So, and I think if you go across the league, I think you'll see there's some similarities across the league with that a little bit. So, except for those elite quarterbacks, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, I think, like always, it's a little combination of things. So, yeah, you press man and you got to get rid of the ball and they're getting after you at the quarterback and you don't know where to throw because you don't know who's really open because it seems as though from your view that they're all covered.
Yeah.
So, that's a tough call. That's when you miss the D-hops. Yeah. Will Levis's favorite target.
No Aiden Hutchinson, obviously. Now it's Josh Paschal, their other edge rusher that I believe is replacing Aiden Hutchinson. He's been out with an illness for the last 3 weeks. Could be healthy on Sunday. but don't know what that illness entails, right? I mean, sometimes you are a little dehydrated, you're a little sore, and all that kind of stuff. At that point, with Leroy Watson getting the start, no Aiden Hutchinson, they still got to deal with DJ Reader. They still got to deal with Aleem McNeil. But looking at it, is this defense maybe it's a little banged up? Is this a defense that the Tennessee Titans can maybe get something going on offense and look like a competent offense for 2 halves? Because that's really what you're looking for, right? If you're a Tennessee Titans fan, you want to win. Maybe some people don't, but you want to win. But you're really looking for growth and competent. You're looking for growth not only from certain players, but from the scheme itself and from this team itself on offense.
But why can't they play 2 halves?
I don't know. And it's been that way for a while now.
My wife asked me that, and I said, I have no idea.
Don't know. Well, that's my question. Can they do it this week?
You never would know.
Never know. Maybe this will be the Mason Rudolph game that everybody's been waiting for.
Tune in to find out.
Tune in and find out. All right. That will do it for us on Cover 2. We'll be back next week. 3HL's up next. I'm Zach Lyons. He's Blaine Bishop. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.